Before I look at problem number 19 in the book, I want to briefly talk about the two words we use a lot in this chapter. It's effect and affect. So they're often misused by students, and I want to get you straight on that. When A affects B, something affects something, that means it's a verb. So affect or affects would be generally considered to be a verb. Now, effect can also be a verb, but it's kind of rare. Effect is normally a noun, and as we tend to use it in this chapter, it's a noun. So the effect of A upon B, okay, is measured. That's a noun. The effect of A on B is such and such. I'm sorry, the effect of A on B, hope I said that clearly enough. The effect of A on B is such and such means we're using it as a noun. We would use effect. How A affects B means A affecting B, and it's being used as a verb. The only time I can think of when effect is used as a verb is when it's, for example, to effect change. If I'm going to effect change, then I'm using it as a verb. But I don't think we generally see that. So anyway, a little bit of English here for this course, but it just annoys me when students get those backwards, and I want to kind of get you straight on that. I think even our textbook screws it up somewhere. I can't remember where, but our textbook actually messes that up itself. All right, I want to look at problem number 19. Oops, there goes my calculator. Problem number 19, and it's on page 509. So let's read through it, bottom of the page. In the Oakland growth study, the staff rated a group of high school girls on a good physique variable. For a sample of 35 middle-class girls, the mean and standard deviation were such and such. And for a sample of 43 working-class girls, the corresponding values were such and such. All right, so there are two categories here, just two groups. There's middle class and working class. All right, so I kind of resent that terminology because I am a working class person. I work like almost all of you do, and so I'm working class. I happen to have clawed my way into the middle class by what I do, but I still work. And so anyway, don't like that terminology, but that was their terminology. So they had two groups, two categories. So working class and middle class. I guess the implication is working class or poor, I don't know. Two categories. So the categorical degrees of freedom are going to be 1, aren't they? Categorical degree of freedom is going to be 1. Now, because there are two categories. Now, the number of working class girls was 43. And there are 35 middle class girls. So when you add those together, that's n was equal to 78, isn't it? All right, so let's go on to the book questions here. I wanted to sort of get that up on the board because I know I'll need it. So, part A, how large is the difference in good physique between the two groups of girls? How large is the difference? Well, the mean for the middle class girls was 56.6, and the mean for the, oops, I got that backwards, didn't I? I got them written backwards from what the book is calling it. Middle class girls is 56.6, and the good physique variable on the working class girls was 48.6. 48.6. So, kind kind of assuming that a higher number means better shape, good physique. So what's the difference? How large is the difference in good physique between the two groups of girls? Well, it's, what would that be, 8 points. So it's 8-point difference. I don't think there's anything more profound you can say about that. Now, the difference, here's part B is what I wanted to get to. The difference translates to an F value of 6.40 on 1 and 76 degrees of freedom. So the difference, F equals to 6.40 on 1 and 76 degrees of freedom. So remember I was talking about degrees of freedom. The numerator degrees of freedom is 1 less than the number of groups or categories. There are 2 categories here. And so 1 less than that is 1. And what about the denominator degrees of freedom? That's 2 less than the sample size, because the total degrees of freedom will be 77. This degree of freedom here will be 1, so 1 plus 76 equals to n minus 1, 77. Got that down? Okay, so the residual degrees of freedom is going to be, in this case, the sample size minus this number and then minus another 1, 76. So anyway, when you're talking about the degrees of freedom on the analysis of variance chart, you have the independent variable, you have the residual variable, you have the total, and in this case n was 78, so the total degrees of freedom was 77. 2 categories, 2 minus 1 is 1. This number here is the difference between those. So that's where that came from. I wanted to explain why it says the F ratio is 6.40 on 1 and 76 degrees of freedom. That's what they're talking about. Alright, with all that blather, the p-value is calculated to 0.013. Alright, so here comes the big question. Is there a significant difference between the 2 means? Yes, there is. There is a significant difference between the 2 means. And because the p-value is very small, that means there is a relationship between the categories, whether it's working class girls or middle class girls, and the good physique variable. There's a difference between the categories. And with 98.7% confidence, in fact. So we would reject the null hypothesis. Yes, there is a difference based upon this p-value. So that's a discussion of problem 19. Okay. I know the first couple of times I did this, I got buffaloed. There's a table at the bottom of the page 509, but that applies to a different problem, not this problem. So, okay, let's find another problem to talk about.